I need to tell you something that not near enough people are talking about. Here it is. For every dietary method you have ever heard of, for every bucket of people who successfully reached a health goal or lost weight on that particular diet, there is a huge bucket of people who are capable and brilliant and have plenty of willpower for whom that method did not work. It didn't work. I'm going to cover several reasons why some diets work for some people and some diets don't, and how you can kind of shift your mindset to start figuring out how to put together something that works for you to reach your health goals. Because if you thought that you were a failure, I'm going to hopefully convince you by the end of this video that you're not. So just a reminder, I'm going to be describing several different dietary approaches here, but I'm not looking at your chart. Talk to your healthcare provider about what's right for you. But I wanted to introduce you to a hypothetical patient or client named Susan. Susan is 51. She was recently diagnosed with prediabetes at her doctor's office. She thinks she needs to lose about 30 to 40 pounds. And her doctor says very wisely, you really need to lose some weight and exercise more. To which her private thought was, no kidding. I know that, right? I can't figure out how to do it and stick with it. And she also knows that since she went through menopause, things seem harder than ever. And Susan, like so many of us, has gotten into this shame cycle of, I'm going to try something new and I'm excited, but now it's not working anymore. And oh, look, I'm a failure. I am smart. Why can't I figure this out? Susan is not broken. She's really bought into this one method for everyone fixes it forever mentality. And that's completely not practical. Let me tell you why. Every dietary approach has its responders or success stories. But then there are also this whole group of people who actually in science are called non-responders. We either couldn't follow the rule book because every single diet or nutrition plan has rules, or we did follow all the rules, but our body did not respond. Like we just couldn't lose the weight or whatever the goal was. So when you're learning about a new dietary approach, why doesn't anybody say, oh, by the way, this works for a lot of people and here they are, check out my success stories on my website. But also right beside that, there's a tab that says, here's all the really smart, capable people for whom this didn't work. Okay, thank you, bye. That doesn't sell. Like, very few people are going to enter into it unless they really believe there is a 100% chance that it's going to work for them. And honestly, this is just a breeding ground for failure and shame and rinse and repeat. Almost all of our medical problems right now in the United States are because of diseases of overnutrition or over-consuming. The truth is that gradually over years, most of us living in industrialized, westernized world, we chronically overeat, even if it's just by a little bit. This is not due to a national willpower deficiency. This is actually due to a dramatic change in environment in modern life that's really just occurred over the last 100 years. And our biology cannot compute. She can't figure out how to regulate the food, the movement, the sleep, the digital data, and the too much data coming in. And some of the results of that are this sort of epidemic of excess body weight and all of the medical problems that go along with that, like diabetes and cardiovascular disease, even Alzheimer's and some cancers. Okay, so all that was to lay the foundation that overconsumption quietly and chronically is sort of the base problem of most of our medical problems right now in the US. So what does really drive dietary results and what determines whether or not you are going to be a responder or a non-responder to a particular dietary approach? Well, let me tell you, it is complicated. In fact, I'd like to run through some of the scientifically known reasons or factors that influence our appetite. Now, when I say appetite, I'm really talking about how frequently and intensely do I think about and desire food? And when I do think about it, how do I react to it? All of that together is your appetite. And out of the scientific list I'm about to show you, none of the words on there are willpower. None of them. Willpower is not actually a big influencer to our appetite and how our body handles the food that it eats. I know, you might need to sit down. Go ahead, process that. Willpower is not on the list. Stuff that determines my appetite. Number one, Genetics. Yes, there is a genetic determination or predisposition that drives even how frequently you think about food, how intensely you want it, and how you respond emotionally and physically to those drives. So before you let that crush you and think that you're genetically doomed, I promise you're not. All of these factors can be overcome. Once you become aware of them, you can sort of change your tactics. But the first thing is just to know that some of it, you just came out that way. Our body uses chemical signals called hormones, and you may have heard of some of them: leptin, ghrelin, GLP-1, insulin, and even estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, along with a jillion other hormones. And a jillion is a medical word, by the way, that influence our hunger, when we feel full, when we feel the desire to eat again, when we don't think about it all the time, can be largely influenced by hormones. Now, we do have some control over our hormones using lifestyle factors, but again, some of it is just genetic. There's even a really important genetic component to your metabolism. So when you think about metabolism, you're basically just thinking about, what does my body do with food when I eat it? Does it burn it up really fast? Do I have a tendency to store things really easily? So if you've looked at people leaner than you sometimes and thought, why the heck are they so lean? And they literally look like they're not trying. It could be that genetically they do actually have a speedier metabolism. So this has actually been studied, and sometimes people just have more dopamine in response to some foods. Like, it's not a shock to me. I bet if you did a functional MRI of my brain, I could look at chocolate and have a fireworks explosion of dopamine inside my brain, and someone else may not. And some of that is genetic. Some are thought to be more food driven than others. Another thing is your body composition right now. The more muscle tissue you have, probably the more hunger you have. Muscle tissue is a stimulator of hunger and appetite, but also having more muscle tissue gives you a higher basal metabolic rate. That means you burn more calories when you're just laying around doing nothing. So that's only one reason that we want to have more muscle on our frame. Unfortunately, fat has a similar and yet sometimes opposite effect. A little bit of fat storage is supposed to be an appetite suppressant when all of our systems are working properly. But with chronic overfeeding, that extra fat store starts working against us. And fat cells themselves can actually start causing insulin resistance, which disrupts this humongous ball of hormonal yarn, and unfortunately ends up being something of an appetite stimulant, even though we might already have too much energy stored on our body in the way of weight. Another thing that drives appetite is your gut microbiome, or what bacteria you actually have living in your gut. You know, in the past, scientists thought that the gut bacteria was like just this inert little ball of trash that happened to live in our gut. And now we know it's practically like another organ. The organisms in our colon really profoundly interact with the foods we eat and our own bodies. They make substances that help our body signal certain things. They can help affect inflammation. They can even help determine if our body's own GLP-1, which you may have heard of that because of its involvement with new weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. Your body makes its own GLP-1, and it really needs a healthy gut microbiome in order to do that. Another thing that affects your appetite and your metabolism is early life. You literally started forming your metabolism and your food tastes when you were inside of your mother. Prenatal exposure to certain molecules can drive our likes and dislikes in early life. And then also, what kind of things were we fed when we were little? If you weren't introduced to a lot of really plant-based foods or strong flavored vegetables early in life, it can be difficult to acquire those tastes later. But take heart, because you can totally do it. The other important factor in appetite drive is just your lifestyle and preferences. It is okay for you to just not like something because you don't like it. Like, I don't like papaya. I don't have to eat that. Which life stage you are in is also critically important. How many people are you responsible for cooking for? What are their tastes like? Are you caring for parents and young children? Do you still have a house full of kids? Do you have a partner whose tastes you're trying to also help out with? Or if you're like me, The kids are gone. You're an empty nester. You have a partner who's honestly so defeated at this point that he just eats anything that I put in front of him. So it's gotten a lot easier. That's the truth. But all of these things matter and they factor into whether or not a particular dietary approach is going to be a good match for you. So I'm not giving you this list to make you feel helpless, like, oh my gosh, look at this list. I can't change my genetics. I can't kick my 6-year-old out of the house yet and be an empty nester like you, Jennifer. I know. It's freeing to know all this because the take home message is you're not broken. And neither was the diet or the dietary guru or author who tried to help you with your health goals. It just wasn't a good, perfect fit for you at that particular time in your life. And the good news is, once you get it in your mind that there's probably not going to be exactly one approach where every rule in that rule book fits me perfectly. What if you're allowed to build your own nutrition toolkit? And the tools you choose to put in it are those that have been shown to be healthful for humans over long health outcome studies and adapted in a way that is sustainable for you. And when we say sustainable, it just needs to feel easy-ish. If you're looking at something and you try it for a month and it never starts feeling easier, you might need to tweak it a little bit to make it easier for you. So it is normal to not have something be a perfect fit for you and be willing to tweak it a little bit to put together your own toolkit. Okay, so let me go through a few examples of a few different successful ways to do this. First, let me introduce you to Sherry. Sherry is a former college athlete and she is a continuing lifelong athlete. She runs, she lifts, she's done CrossFit, she's done Camp Gladiator. She has been an athlete in several different communities. She has been a macro and calorie tracker for years and she loves it. She feels like it gives her structure and freedom to her life. She carefully calculates how many calories she needs, protein and fat and carbs. She weighs and measures everything, and she likes that. It doesn't feel hard to her. That means it's sustainable. Because of her athletic needs, she eats at least 5 times a day, spread out over 12 hours. And she emphasizes protein, but she makes sure to emphasize also plant-based protein in addition to animal-based protein. Lots of research for the benefits of that. Okay, meet Joy. Joy has a Native American background and genetically, she's quite predisposed to diabetes. She was diagnosed with diabetes a couple of years ago and MAFLD, which is short for metabolically associated fatty liver disease. She started a low carb lifestyle after she was diagnosed, and she's really stuck with it. She also emphasizes plants, eats a lot of plant protein, a lot of healthy fats, and when she has carbs, she makes sure that they are totally unprocessed plant sources like sweet potatoes. She avoids sugar-sweetened beverages like the plague because she knows how terrible they are for fatty liver. She does some time-restricted eating from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. She does an earlier eating window, and she's been doing this for a couple of years, and it works great for her. And then there's Jen, yours truly. I eat mostly plant-based, and I eat 2 large meals over about an 8-hour eating window. And I have a mandatory sugar-free, high-protein, plant-based dessert every single night right after dinner. And after that, I take a walk. So what happened with our friend Susan? Susan ended up hearing that the Mediterranean diet was a really good evidence-based diet that she had heard of before, but had not really tried. So she bought a Mediterranean diet cookbook, and just within a couple of weeks, she was eating tons more vegetables. She still didn't really start to lose any weight, even about 3 weeks after starting. So instead of thinking it didn't work, she just kept tweaking. Carbohydrates are a part of a healthy Mediterranean diet, but she realized that she was probably overeating them. So even though she did not want to count every single calorie, she did start counting just the carb portions of her meals. And if she didn't feel like she got enough, she went back for more vegetables. She lost a couple of pounds like this, but about 6 weeks in, she still was a little bit not happy with her sluggish weight loss. So she decided that by that time, she felt so empowered with her increased energy that she was going to try cutting way back on sugar. Now, I am not completely against sugar. It's not evil. It's just an organic molecule. But there are some great studies that for some of us, including me, I'm like the poster child for this. When we have sugar in our diet, it totally messes up my appetite mojo. It just makes me want more all the time of whatever it is. Susan found the same thing. She started avoiding sugar too and felt even better. The scale started to move a little bit now. She started to walk more because of her increased energy. She finally decided that she was going to start postponing breakfast and fasting for longer every day. And that was so successful that she ended up compressing her eating window from noon to 8. So a few months later, she lost about 10 or 15 pounds and is feeling amazing. So I hope you see here that it is okay to be a non-responder. What you do is keep cobbling together, increasing tweaks, decreasing things that don't feel sustainable, fixing your environment to make things easier for you, and put together an evidence-based toolkit that works for you. One thing I get asked a lot about is physical activity and appetite. Physical activity is an appetite stimulant. It will actually make you hungrier. And the more muscle you have on your body is actually an appetite stimulant too. It doesn't ever, however, mean that we should not exercise. And of course, I don't have your chart right in front of me, but you should probably be exercising after you discuss with your doctor what is appropriate for you. If you want to see what the evidence says about what we should be doing after age 40 as women, take a look at this video right here.